I've been waiting. Sunshine, why you playing? With my head on the time, you go way out of line.
Hey, it's your girl Serene and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for joining. Please do not hesitate to come back. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment if you feel the need to, share, and don't forget to hit that notification bell on your way out so you can be notified every time I upload a video. Okay? Now, let's get to the nitty-gritty of this Edgecomb versus Wisconsin trial. This trial, people. So on day 3, Mrs. Clearman took the stand. And it was confusing. And what I mean by confusing, you know how your kids, well, if you're a parent, if you're a parent, you're going to understand the example I'm about to give you. Your kids get in trouble and you ask them to tell you the story what happened, and you can tell where they're minimizing and leaving out the bad things they really did. That's how I felt watching her testify. But it was scary to me because I don't want to judge her on her actions. And what I mean by actions is the fact that Mrs. Clearman watched her husband be shot in the face, and what she did 6 seconds after he hit the ground was hopped out the car, ran over, fiddled with some stuff, hopped back into the car, called her friend, female friend, never calling the police, then stating she didn't call the police because she was so shaken up that she couldn't put her 6-number code into her phone to call the police. But she called her friend. Was on the phone with her friend. See what I mean? Starting off. Then, still sits in the car, runs back over to the body a second time, but not actually touching him or anything like that. Like, she not trying to, basically, she not trying to hold something on the wound to stop the bleeding. She's not trying to pull him to her bosom. She's not got her head laying on him, crying her eyes out. She on the phone. According to one witness, what we get to later, her name and all of that. But according to the witness, once they were standing there and she called the police, she just seemed, what's the word she used? I'm sorry. Hysterical at that point. She said she was on the phone talking with the friend, cussing, repeatedly to the friend. She asked her if she called the police. She said she did not. She couldn't. So she is one of the people that called the police. But that was for that she testified to today. But let's get back to day 3, which would have been Friday, because today is Monday. So that Friday, she basically said, because today, Monday the 24th. So this testimony would have been 23rd, 22nd, 21st. Friday the 21st. I think I'm saying that right. Basically, this is what the wife's saying. The wife also stated she doesn't use cuss words. Her husband the one that do a lot of swearing. She also stated she never hit Mr. Edgecomb with her car, but that he came out of nowhere, which caused her to swerve around him. And that's when her husband yelled out the window at Mr. Edgecomb, what the F are you doing? As they kept driving. And apparently this is what made him ride his bike up to their car, where she admitted, he stated, who are you talking to? And when her husband said you, is when he punched him. She also admitted, yes, he did leave, take off on his bike, and, you know, he wasn't a threat anymore. Then she tried to state they didn't follow him. She didn't know where he was going. She wasn't paying attention. Her husband just up and told her to turn right. I want to talk to him. That's what she said his words was. Turn right. I want to have a talk with him. Now, your husband just been punched in the face. She said she did not notice him open the door after he was punched in the face, which he clearly does on the video. She says she did not notice where Mr. Edgecomb rode his bike off to, even though they went that same way behind him. She said all she knows, her husband told her to turn right and said that he wanted to talk to him. And he was calm, apparently. After being punched in the face, she's telling us he was calm. He just wanted to talk to him. And that run we see him doing in the video, that's not a run. That's just a brisk walk. But he wasn't mad. Yeah. Anywho, she also says the first time she went over to the body, she admitted she took her husband's wallet. She wanted something to feel close to him, so she took his wallet. She also asked the police once they got into the car, because they had her in the back of the police car, if her husband was okay or not. Even though she told the 911 operator on the phone, through the woman who called the 911 hotline, that her husband was dead already. Even on the stand, no tears. Didn't even look sad. Looked like she was having a normal conversation. Like nothing was abnormal about this conversation. Like she didn't just lose her husband, who, according to when she was sitting in the back of the police car, she was crying at that point, stating this was the love of her life. When the prosecution played that video is when you finally start seeing some emotion, but you still never see a tear fall from her eye. Ever. And I've been thinking long and hard about how I feel about this, and I mean, I've made every but what if. And I know everybody reacts different to things, but a wife that really just lost the love of her life. Let's say I'm a person, matter of fact, I'll use myself for example. I am a willed control of my emotions type of person. I'm 43 years old, so throughout my 43 years of life, any circumstance I've been in where you have to pause to really think about what's going on around you so you don't end up getting hurt or killed yourself, I'm real good at pausing and focus versus breaking down and crying. So I get that you may not cry when something first happened, but what I don't get and what I can't reconcile with is the no care action. You don't try to hold nothing to the wound. You walk up to your husband. I don't care that you see a gunshot wound. Why don't you hold something to it to stop the bleeding? Even if you can't figure out you're going to stop the bleeding, why isn't his head in your lap? Why aren't you trying to keep him woke? Why? There's no way my husband hit the ground and I'm not touching him in some type of form, trying to console even if he's dead. That's the part I can't get over. I'm sorry. That's the part that has me stuck. It's not even the no crying. It's the fact that you're not doing anything that a normal wife who has a man that her husband, her other half, that she feels the love of her life. Yours, her exact words. Love of my life. No one else is going to love me like it. That was her exact words. But you show no caring towards him. You don't try to put something on his wound. You don't try to hold his head in your lap. You don't try to make sure for sure, like, maybe he is living or so. No wife just automatically thinks to grab his wallet and then he's dead. So, and then you don't even call the police to try to get the ambulance as quick as possible. He may be still alive. By the time you call the police, he gonna be bled to death because you never do. But anywho, we gonna move on. And I want to state, I feel so bad for that family. They lost a family member. Nobody should have to feel that pain. But I wonder, after sitting in court, watching her do that on video, how they feel about that. Because I think I'd be looking at my mama kind of side-eyed if I saw her and knew that she did that with my dad, that he just lay there dying with nobody showing him any love and care and letting him know he's not alone out there on that ground. Because I think about time the witnesses who I'm about to speak of next showed up, he definitely was dead by then. Anywho, the prosecution, I'm looking at my notes, so that's why my head gonna be going down. I'm sorry, y'all. We're talking about 2 days of court here. And this judge is determined to move this case along. And I'm gonna get to this judge too, because he is so mean and grouchy. Oh, but anywho, we're gonna talk about that later. The prosecution had another officer, a forensic specialist. I think the other officer was like part of the crime scene, and then they rested. So basically, out of the last, I would say it was 3 officers that was called for the prosecution. 3, it might have been 4. Either way it go. The question and all pretty much what to say then was standard to, you know, if what they collected, didn't collect, did collect. What is important to mention them of, because for the reason I'm even mentioning these last witnesses is because the one important thing was the cross-examination, where the defense got some of them officers to admit that in a murder trial, you should try to get every piece of evidence possible. And the bottom line is they did not. And when the defense started their case, which they did today, they brought some stuff out. Now, let me start by saying, after them officers, basically they got them up to admit they never tested his knife that was in his front pocket. And I'm saying that because this woman admitted to tampering with the scene before the police came, and we see it on video. So in his pocket, they never tested it, so we don't know if anybody else's fingerprints on it. We don't know if any type of any DNA was on the knife at all. We know nothing. As far as getting the videos for the very first incident, which Mrs. Clearman admitted there was a very first incident before the incident we see on tape where she Mr. Edgecomb punched Mr. Clearman. So the wife admitted it was a first incident, just like Mr. Edgecomb said there was. Of course, his recount of the first incident is different than hers. But anywho, he also pointed out how Mrs. Clearman, told one officer one story of what happened and told other officers a completely different story of what happened. They also discussed he also brung out videotapes. Well, no, okay, I'm going into their defense now, so let's pause there. So they basically got them to admit that some things were not done that should have been done and that they thought would be important to do for a murder case. Next, the prosecution rests. Defense started their case. The defense started their case by calling two officers. Their first two witnesses was two officers and then a third officer. So with these three officers, they were called for the defense. I feel a lot of people feel, so what? How does it go to the defense that Mr. Edgecomb is claiming? And I believe it definitely goes to the defense that, number one, the police did not investigate this properly at all. There are definitely holes in this investigation that definitely... Hold on one second. I don't know why I don't know. Anywho. It is definitely some doubt to have in this case. So one officer they actually played a video where you clearly see on the video that he talks to two witnesses. And then when he talked to an officer who was like in charge, giving them orders of what to do. And he says to the officer that he tells him about the first two witnesses he talked to. And then he explains to him that it was a third one that had been standing over to the side waiting, and he had been waiting for a long time, and he wanted to know if he could just go over there and get his story. And the officer told him, we got enough effing evidence. And you know what effing is, people. Evidence. I mean, no. He said, we have enough effing witnesses. We don't need any more. And he told him to go do something else. Then he asked him, was you live? Talking about his camera. He said, yes, do you want me to turn it off? And he do end up turning his camera off. After him and that officer had that conversation. That right there, I find deeply something seriously. We have no idea what that witnesses would have said he saw. We don't know how long that witness was around the witness or what all he did witness. For all we know, he could have witnessed it from the very beginning of when it started, when they pulled around the corner or whatever. We don't know. We have no idea what this witness would have said. We don't. And I know if I'm thinking this, the jury has to be thinking this. Period. We also had another officer who showed that he had went from he did like the searches of the area for cameras and like to see where cameras was or whatever and if they were working. And he also admitted they did not collect all the video footage from all the places they found cameras were. They only did certain places. But he also stated that he wasn't the one to go back to collect them. All of that footage, it was handed to somebody else. So they brought that out, which again, they bringing up the fact that they didn't get all the video footage because we have no video footage of the original encounter between the Clearmans and Edgecomb. The video footage only picks up from the punch to the shooting. It shows nothing about the first incident, which we now have Mrs. Clearman stating did happen. That it was an incident before the punch. After the officers, the fourth witness was a Mrs. Trotter. Now, she rolled past and saw Mrs. Clearman, and she said she looked like she was in distress. So she had her husband drive back around to make sure she was okay. And she asked her if she was okay and what happened. And she said that's when she told her that, okay, so Miss Trotter said when she asked her what was going on, so they bleeped the cuss words on TV. So whatever she said included a lot of F-bombs because they bleeped it out. We didn't hear. That's when she had her husband pull to the front of her car and she got out the car. This is the red SUV that pulled up beside her car, by the way, if I didn't say. Mrs. Trotter and her husband was the people in the red SUV that pulled up next to Miss Clearman's car. So anywho, they ended up getting out the car at this point. And Mrs. Clearman had got out the car again at this point. Mrs. Trotter said she like sat away from her husband, but you know, like not far, but not up on him. Not no consoling way. None of that. She said she seemed hysterical, but she asked her if she called 911. She said she didn't. So she did. And they had a copy of her 911 call. You could hear the 911 operator asking her questions like, is he still breathing? And then Miss Trotter would ask Mrs. Clearman, is he still breathing? She said, no, he was dead. They wanted to try to walk her through CPR. She said again, he is gone. So she didn't even want to try that, to resuscitate him or whatever. But from my understanding, he was shot in the head. So yeah, she probably didn't want to try that at all. But anywho, Mrs. Trotter go on to state that basically while they're standing there, Mrs. Clearman starts going into his front pockets again. She said it looked like she couldn't really successfully get into the front pockets, but she told her she probably shouldn't be doing that. And this is when Mrs. Clearman told her, it's my effing husband. Apparently she likes that F word, even though she just swears she doesn't curse her husband. Anywho, the Mrs. Trotter said that she told her, I understand that, but you probably shouldn't be doing that. And she continued trying. Now, Mrs. Trotter admitted she never saw her take nothing out. She never saw her put nothing in. The wallet that she claimed she took from her husband the first time she visited his body, because that's what I'm about to call it at this point, her visiting his body, she said she took out his back pocket. And now this is before anybody was there. So this is the second time she had the body, and there's people there now. It was a man across the street that was calling the police. Mrs. Trotter was calling the police. And then we had other people who rolled by, saw what was going on, calling the police. So anywho, she said that she stayed there until the fire department showed up. And then she left because she had her kids with her in the car. She has 6 children. So her and her husband went home. She said after she put her children to bed, she really couldn't get out of her head that she was trying to go in her pocket. She felt that was odd to her and weird. So she remembered that at the time she did not tell the police officer who called her after they got on the scene and learned she was not there. They called her and had a conversation with her. She didn't tell them at that time that she had saw her going in her husband's pockets. So she said at that point, she found the number to the homicide department at the police station, and she called up there to let them know that bit of information. Now, this all happened in the same night. This ain't no, maybe she talked to a lawyer and they brung it up. No, this happened the same night. She called and let them know. They told her, thank you for calling and letting us know. And they never called her about it again. She never heard back from them about it again. Now, mind you, this is a defense witness. She was not a witness for the prosecution. They never called her for the prosecution. The defense called her as part of the defense. Now, the thing to me, it was kind of like but I guess at the same time, the defense is proving once again, they did not do their due diligence when it came to investigating this crime. This witness, to me, would have been more perfect for the prosecution because she's the only witness who claimed Miss Clearman was hysterical, that she was shaking. She only want to say that. But I think they didn't call her because she did witness her going through her husband's pockets, which calls again. What are you doing? What are you looking for? What are you doing? You're tampering with the scene, period. So, yeah. I think that's why they did not call her, but the defense did. Anywho, after her, they had another gentleman who was a retired officer for that district. I do not remember his name, but he basically was testifying that the investigation of the case was basically terrible and done wrong. Was basically terrible and done wrong. They had a third witness they never spoke to, never got anything from. They never got all of the camera footage from the beginning incident, the very first incident on down. They did not do that. They didn't call back to check in with Mrs. Trotter to get to investigate what she witnessed with her checking the pockets or whatever. It just seems to be a lot. They didn't even test the wife to see what her alcohol level would have been if she had THC in her system. Because Mr. Clearman did. He was high and drunk, apparently, the night this incident happened. It just seemed to be a lot of things that the defense is pointing out the state did not, that the police department did not do, basically, correctly in the case. Now, will this work out in Mr. Edgecomb's defense? I do not know. I'm not gonna lie. I feel that yes, they are raising serious doubts, but that could lead to a hung jury. Do you want a hung jury or do you want a not guilty plea? And I understand where they're going with it. It's not like I don't understand where they're going with it. They're proving exactly what he said they were going to prove in his opening statement. That the police did not investigate it properly. A lot of things are left out. A lot of unknowns are going on in this case. And they basically want us to accept the fact, the story they're rolling with, which is he basically rolled up and punched Mr. Clearman for no reason at all. But we know there is a reason behind it because Mrs. Clearman admitted there was an original incident before the punching incident. She admitted that herself. She also, you can also tell she's leaving out what happened because why would he ask you who were you speaking with if he asks him what the F you're doing? No, I believe he may have called Mr. Edgeman out his name with that N-word that us African Americans just don't like. I believe that. So that basically was day 3 and 4. And we will continue on. This judge seems very determined to move this case along very quickly, and I don't think he cared how he looked doing it. He has been so abrupt and mean towards the defense. I wouldn't be surprised that if he was found guilty, they could get it overturned off his behavior alone. Because that's how mean He's mean. And when I say mean, he's almost not giving them the legal right to. Either way I go, this judge is extremely mean as far as I'm concerned. Now, I believe in day 5, which would be tomorrow, Tuesday the 25th, we should see Mr. Edgecomb himself take the stand, and I believe they're supposed to do a self-defense expert. He's supposed to be the same one that testified on behalf of Kyle Rittenhouse from his trial. Another thing, I don't understand why everybody keep comparing this to the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, because I really do not feel it's the same thing, for the simple fact that as much as I feel Kyle Rittenhouse should have did time for what he did, the bottom line is he was in a way different scene than Mr. Clearman and Mr. Edgecomb was in. I feel both of them took things into their own hand. If he was, when Mr. Edgecomb, if we believe his story, was hit by the car, knocked off his bike to the ground, called N-word that us African Americans do not like, he should have called the police and told them exactly what happened to him and took it from there. Try to get a license plate or something. Instead, he chose to ride up, ask him who he was talking to. He called him an N-word again and told him. He decided to punch him. Yeah, he rode off and didn't, keep attacking or anything like that or maintain a threat, even though we all know at this point he had a gun on him. He could have shot him then if that's really what he wanted to do. But he chose to punch him and ride off on his bike. At this point, Mr. Clearman had the choice. He could call the police. He could have reported what happened and went on about his business. But I think his whole actions was run off the fact he was high and he was drunk. It was in his system. They ran the test. They had the proof. I feel as though the next step from there, he had a right to defend himself at this point, because he had gone on. The car did chase behind him. He did end up having to hop on the curb and almost fell off his bike again. He did jump out the car. He did run up on Mr. Edgecomb and ran up into his face. We know he was very close to him because of what the coroner office reported as far as how close the shot was that he received. So I think this is going to be a very hard case for the jury to decide on, especially if they thinking like me. I just really feel both men are responsible for this incident of what it led up to. I do. But I will say, I do not like the way the police investigated this at all. I don't. Their attitude about it, to me, was wrong from the beginning. The fact that Mrs. Clearman is not even in trouble for tampering with the body and everything afterwards. I could see if she was trying to hug him, hold him. No, she was taking things off his body literally and admitted to that. So yeah, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that for sure. I think this is going to be a really hard case. I can't wait to see what the jury decides, but more importantly, I cannot wait to see what Mr. Edgecomb has to say on his own behalf tomorrow. So I will be letting you guys know how that went and the rest of that Wednesday. Can get that together. So, because you guys are going to get this video on Tuesday. So you'll see this Tuesday, then you'll hear, well, you might hear it Thursday, I'm sorry. But it depends if the defense rests their case. We'll see. Y'all will get it. I will be keeping you updated. So, If you made it to the end of my video, thank you. Do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Please hit the notification bell on your way out so you can be made aware every time I upload a video. And thank you so much for watching and listening to my opinion and of what happened with the case. But I would really love if people would comment, how do they feel about her taking things off her husband's body instead of trying to give some care to him? Let me know. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of y'all evenings.
I swear I give you my tomorrow, forever and now. I'll never bring you sorrow.